You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 1141, titled An Older Woman. And Travis, I think we can both agree that Scopper Gabon knows all about that subject.
He's an expert in the field, you could say.
Yes, the expert in the field, the mountains. As usual, we're going to be discussing spoilers for the One Piece manga up until this point. Spoilers, you wouldn't understand the joke that we just made unless you had read the manga till now, right? So, if you have not yet read One Piece 1141, be sure to do so now for free on the Viz website, or you can check it out on the Shonen Jump app, which is linked in the show notes as always. And remember, all new One Piece chapters are available to read for free up to 3 weeks after their official release, or whenever you want if you're subscribed to Shonen Jump, which we are and do recommend. Travis, I have to ask you for a quick, simple favor.
Sure.
I want you to talk favorably about the Discord. I know it's not your favorite. I know whenever we talk about the Discord, you don't want people to join because it's obviously the internet's best kept secret. But just today, for me, say something nice about the Discord, please. I'm begging you. I'm hands and knees.
I'm hurt at this suggestion. All I want is to preserve the internet's best kept secret, which is the In Between Drafts Discord, which is linked in the show notes, strangely enough, where, our loyal listeners are talking all the time about the newest theories. They're theory crafting with us. They're telling us how wrong we are after podcast episodes. It's just this nice little bubble where everybody's kind and not spoiling anything for anybody else. They're right there in our spoilers channel. And honestly, I gotta say, since I do have to say something truly nice, I think that we've got some of the best theorists in the game sitting in there talking through these theories with us, because they've got the memory, they're able to fact check us right away, and I think it's made us better at our jobs, John.
If anything, they are, they're a crutch. I think that we are lacking some character development because they do all the work for us. We have the easiest jobs in the world.
Yeah, we've credited more than a few things to that Discord server. Completely
it's true,
honestly.
We have to. And it's also true that we do also have an email. We love the email. You can email us, rookiepiratradio@gmail.com. Don't worry, I'll say it again by the end of this sentence, rookiepiratradio@gmail.com. You can hit us up there too, especially if you want to keep things anonymous. But if you wanted to write into the show and talk to us, that's another easy way to do it. Travis, can I celebrate something? A little self-promo?
Yes, I'll allow it.
I am so excited to tell you all on the air that, because look, we talk about One Piece all the time here, and we talk about Oda. We poke holes sometimes in Oda's magnum opus story, right? So I'm sure a lot of the listeners are like, who are you, right? John and Travis. To critique Eiichiro Oda? Where's your stuff? Where's your original fiction? I don't see it. Well, now you get to give me the Rookie Pirate Radio treatment if you want. I have a new short story that's going to be published, and it's an original fairy tale. It's not pirates, but it is Caribbean stuff, and it's an original fairy tale coming on the Fairy Tale magazine, April 15th. It's going to be online. It's going to be, I think, free. I actually forgot, but I think it will be free. Pretty sure. But if you are curious, like, who is this John guy? What is he up to? Can he write as good as Eiichiro Oda? Well, I'll stop you right there. No, but I can write. I can put a couple sentences together, Travis.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair self-appraisal. Just like you got Oda here, and then just John right below it. Makes sense.
Just below it? Don't beat me up with praise. Hey, look, the theme of it's the Fairy Tale magazine. The theme of this issue is Sleeping Beauty. And look, I mean, Oda uses fairy tale stuff and princesses and stuff like that all the time. So it's not like this is a totally random self-promotion. I think there are some threads here and there.
Yeah, like I said, I'll allow it. We'll definitely advertise that in the Discord as well. So if you're in there, you'll get a reminder.
Well, that's my reminder to get this show on the road because we have a chapter to recap. That's right, 1141. And Travis, I got to have you start things off because you're the pro. We have the cover request here. Can you tell us all about it? But not the cover request, the cover story.
Not the request, it's a cover story. And yes, we are once again continuing the Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage. We're on volume 27. Can you believe it? 27. They said we'd never make it, and here we are. And we're continuing. It's taken a whole year, but we've gotten there. Can we make it to 28? Who knows? But what I will say is we do get to see Ulti's point of view from last cover story, where she was threatening Who's Who with death for touching page one. And we see that he's done a sizable amount of not just laying a finger or anything like that, but like doing some stabbing. We even have the members of his crew behind him chanting "kill, kill." So things are going a little bad, I might say.
I would agree with that. We still don't have a good idea, why this is happening still. Like why Who's Who is being a big jerk. More like
There's a
jerk.
he's
Who's
a real
who?
piece of
Yeah,
work.
who is this jerk face is what I'm asking. Yeah. There was a fun because the SBS came out and there was something in it about like all the Toby wrote, or most of them I think were all named after card games, and a lot of people didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. I didn't realize Who's Who was an actual game or a reference to a game. So that was kind of fun. But
Yeah,
apparently,
didn't
page
we
one of the
also
game
from this
too.
SBS? Yeah, didn't we also find out who Page One and Ulti's father is during that
Yeah,
SBS?
the warlord that Ace defeated, Hanafuda. Where did that
Hanafuda.
come from? I remember because I put it in the Discord. I was literally boarding a plane to Las Vegas, and the last thing I did before I went airplane mode was SBS, SBS. Here it is.
Yeah, and just the word "what" over and over again. Not because any of these are like big, like huge revelations, like the Harley or something, but just what?
Well,
Come on, you
there
made that
is
up.
kind of there is confirmation the name of the planet is
That's
the blue
true.
planet, which
Yeah,
I think was something that had already been kind of teased before, but it's like legit now. Like Oda's saying,
yeah,
we have a
we've
planet
seen
bearing
it
name.
used. Yeah, we've seen it used. I do wonder. I'm gonna be real about that since we're talking about it briefly here. I wonder if that's supposed to be kind of like a distraction or a hint rather than like someone has called the planet this.
Mm.
Because we talk about our own Earth like it's a little pale blue dot in the
Yeah,
cosmos, and so now people are kind of like, was the first world our world, and like maybe he's teasing that out. Who knows?
maybe. I'm good with running along with that. Okay, so let's talk about this chapter. We go to the Straw Hats. They are on the ship with Road, and tensions are rising behind the scenes. Nami is complaining about not finding any treasure, typical Nami. Road is scrambling at this point, trying to cover up this entire castle incident. He's afraid that he's going to be blamed for helping Luffy try to free Loki. And then, meanwhile, we cut over to Frankie. He is still touring the legendary Treasure Tree Atom with Ripley. And Ripley reveals that even this mighty, unbelievable tree has its weaknesses. That includes fire and lightning. Makes sense. And explains how after an entire village was lost to a fire in its branches. And anyway, so then we go to the feast. We see a drunken Usopp kind of joking around with the giants. He's living out his dream, finally making it to Elbath. And Sanji starts to realize something is off when he notices Gerd is missing. You might remember Gerd from the new giant warrior pirates. Down in the underworld, we see Luffy and Zoro. They have found Loki. Loki is, of course, badly injured, as we already knew, and still chained up. Luffy wants to free him right away, but Zoro is wary of Loki's reputation and actually insists that maybe they keep one shackle on in order to suppress his devil fruit powers. Luffy agrees, but then he rushes off to find some food to help him recover, only to witness that the new giant warrior pirates and Sanji are falling from the sky. Gerd has forced the truth out of Road and alerted Hajruden, but their attempt to reach the underworld has failed, sending them all crashing down. Luffy barely saves them, but the moment they land, Hajruden begs him not to free Loki, warning that he's not to be trusted. They're too late because Loki's already on his feet, and he has a weapon in his hand called Ragnir, and despite his injuries, he is able to use it. With tensions already at a breaking point, it's pretty clear that something big is about to go down, and we're about to find out if Luffy just made a huge mistake. Travis, this ends with Loki saying he's gonna do something with Ragnar, and this thing. Can I just say it? Can I
Yeah,
just
do it.
it? He's about to bring some lightning down.
That's what it
Two things
feels
about that.
like. Yeah.
Two things about that. It's been set up that the tree is susceptible to lightning, and we got our rubber boy right here. So,
Yep. We've done
uh,
this
yeah,
before. We've
we have
definitely
done
done
this
this before.
before.
I do. This now having a name does beg a question that I think is also answered by the name. But it why did they if like specifically he's not supposed to grab like like don't grab this, something bad's going to happen. Why did they leave it there? What's up with
Hmm.
that? Is this really like a Mjolnir situation where only the worthy can hold it or something? And so like the devil fruit that he has is why he can lift it. Is the weapon the devil fruit actually? This is interesting to me.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
I didn't
one
consider it until they named it.
I would say one option would be that when he was locked up, they locked the Ragnir up with him, kind of like as a symbolic punishment. Maybe they believe, like, first of all, he wouldn't be able to use it in his current state. And since it's a weapon so deeply tied to his identity and his powers, they might have like hesitated to actually try to discard or destroy it. Even a chance they don't even know it exists, but I doubt that. Also, though, another theory, it could have been placed there by somebody else, right? Somebody could have left Ragnar near Loki for some reason, hoping that eventually he would be free. That could include all of his allies down in the underworld forest who've been helping him out. There could be, for that reason, a much bigger plan, right? For him to do his thing and do terrible things to Elbaf the minute he gets free. So that could make sense to me. Also, third theory, Travis, maybe you like this one.
Yeah,
It's
we'll go for
Ragnir.
3.
He could have called it to him because that's how Thor's hammer works, right? So if it's like a mystical
Yeah.
weapon, he could have summoned it from somewhere else, even with the sea stone shackles.
Mm,
If it's not like a devil fruit thing.
so even if they took it, he would just have it anyway, kind of situation.
Yeah, he would just be like,
That
Ragnar, come
makes
here.
sense. Yeah, that actually makes sense. I'm not
So
against that idea at all.
which I mean, any of these items, these
Any of
options
these. Yeah.
could work.
That it must be special. That's this when we have a named weapon, when that weapon draws fear, whether it's Zoro's various swords over the years or this or the ancient weapons or anything like that. Like there's something about this. It's not just a hammer, right?
I agree.
There's
I
no way.
agree. Yeah. I didn't have too much on the rest of the chapter. I mean, it's all kind of just like moving us along. We don't get a ton of stuff. I mean, I kind of skipped over the Ja Rule stuff that was revealed here. Was there anything that stuck out to you though?
I do think it's interesting that we have shortcutted to get Sanji down to the underworld as well. So now we have kind of our classic monster trio, Jinbei exempted. Here now, it's kind of a roundabout way because Sanji's been kind of in the background for the last little while, just having
Hmm.
a good time being him. And, that kind of signals to me that we're probably going to be in, like, these 3 are going to be in the underworld for a while. If it were just Luffy and Zoro, I'd probably say maybe 50-50. But I think we're actually going to, like, have a fight down here for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, Loki is in kind of a vulnerable state. He's weakened. We still don't have a for sure confirmed idea of how powerful he is. We just have some power scaling hints. We know that he, you know, it took a lot of people to bring him down. And a big reason why he might be in this position where the Holy Knights came for him could be because Shanks isn't here. So that's another indication of how powerful he is. So all that to say, this could be setting up a thing where we see that even with the combined strength of Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, it's not enough to take on a weakened version of Loki with Sea Stone cuffs. That would be hype. It would also be confusing for a lot of people of like, okay, but like, does that mean Luffy still is like nowhere near Shanks? And if so, if Shanks was that much more powerful than Kaido, then how does that work? For various reasons. So if he was that much more powerful than Kaido this whole time, that definitely has, me kind of curious of like what Shanks has been up, like what's
Hmm.
his deal at this point. And
Yeah.
it does kind of paint Shanks in not the best light.
Yeah, it's one of those things where this isn't really like a power scaling conversation, right? It's not an issue of, well, is Shanks powerful enough to do something? It just begs the question of his agenda. right? And I don't mean like, oh, he's
Mhm.
secretly a bad guy, he's secretly a celestial dragon. You know, we talked about some potential ways to square all of that last week. But here it's not until Kaido is defeated that Shanks decides to make a move. And then of course Big Mom was defeated there as well. So we have these big power vacuums that kind of make taking the shot for the One Piece more reasonable. And then of course there's the potential that he knew what Luffy could achieve potentially this entire time. That's also a factor in all of this. But it does kind of beg this question of like, are we really going to spend 3 years in Elbaf waiting for Luffy to get strong enough to actually make contact with Loki again? I don't think anybody wants that. That we're not really wanting this story to go another 10 years just to finish this last saga, right? Not to
Yeah.
say that like we need to rush through certain things or anything like that, but I think if you do something where Luffy just gets as absolutely blasted as he did at the beginning of Wano to like set that level at like, hey, we're gonna be here a while because we can't even just have him get powerful enough through the fight. We're gonna be, kind of doing a mini training arc here. I don't think that's gonna fly. I don't think we're far enough away from Wano. I don't think it lines up with the way the stakes were handled in Egghead. It just would be very strange to do kind of a reset of the table now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was kind of teeing this up, to be fair. I want to put a stamp on the Shanks conversation once and for
Okay.
all.
All right, let's go.
First of all, Shanks's role is that he is a balancer. He is not a conqueror. Okay. We've known this for a long time. He is the type of pirate he's not the type of pirate, I should say, who tries to forcefully reshape the world or impose his will unless absolutely necessary. That's what differentiates him from Luffy and Blackbeard, actually. They are actively pushing toward a new era. Shanks operates in the background. He always has. He's subtly influencing events rather than dominating them. And look, if he had directly stopped Kaido before the war, before him bringing down and before Marineford, all that stuff, he would be fundamentally altering the balance of power in a way that could have really bad consequences. Like, yeah, you save Wano, but then you put the world out of balance. And that's just something Shanks had no interest in. I have more because
Hmm.
that's just part one, right?
Right.
Part two, and it's also about the Yonko and the power struggle between the Yonko and about the nature of Kaido himself. Because the thing with Kaido is stopping him is not as simple as just defeating him. Kaido wants to die in a grand battle. He kept saying that over and over. That was set up so many times. And if Shanks fought him
Yeah.
and won, that could set off an even bigger war. And instead of preventing chaos, it would actually escalate everything, especially since Kaido had an entire army at Wano. And Shanks, because he's a very smart person, I think we can determine here he is calculating. He calculated that letting this inevitable battle play out between the Yonkos was the much better move rather than risking an all out war between the Yonkos and the world government and all of that. And that's just part two, Travis. I have more. I've
You've
been
got
thinking
more.
about this because I had a very fiery conversation with somebody about this, so I'm venting. If
Yeah,
you
let's
can,
do it. Yeah.
if you can let me, I don't want to
I
call
will
it
I
cooking
will
because there's a
I will
grease fire.
indulge you.
Okay, you mentioned it. Shanks's agenda, his true interests. Okay, his true interest is protecting the future, not just one part of the world like Wano. So throughout the story, Shanks has consistently shown that he prioritizes the bigger picture. Okay. So this includes when he stopped the Marineford War.
Hmm.
He probably believed that interfering too soon in Wano could have disrupted a necessary event. Luffy's growth, the dawn of the new generation. That's why it makes sense that he shows up at the very end. He didn't step in against Kaido, but he did intervene later when Green Bull showed up. And that was his way of signaling, or the story of signaling. His goal is to protect Wano after its people have secured their own freedom. That's how Shanks works. He doesn't do it for you. He helps those who help themselves.
Yeah, it's a Luffy situation. He operates more or less the same way.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And there are also, and I have more, strategic limitations. Okay. stopping Kaido from reaching Marineford. Let's just stick to Marineford, right? That doesn't mean Shanks could have just defeated him outright. I really think that what we always miss with this is like Kaido isn't an opponent that can be taken down in a quick, clean fight. You have to think of this like Punk Hazard. How long did it take for Sakazuki and Akainu, or sorry, Kuzan, to finish their fight? It took what, like 10 days or something like that? It would be brutal. You have to look at how much it took for Luffy to beat him in one night. It was a constant battle. He almost lost multiple times, and a lot of other people had to step in too. And it took this like once in a, you know, global event, transformation. So even if Shanks had intercepted Kaido, it probably wouldn't have ended in a decisive victory, just like a prolonged battle that would have left both of them too weakened to stop Marineford's destruction. Again, Shanks is calculating. He understands this. He is smart. Putting the pin on that, I never want to see that again. Of like, why didn't Shanks just stop?
Well, I mean,
last thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's. I was gonna say it's interesting that you bring up limitations because we have seen Shanks do pretty impossible things. For example, you bring up Marineford. He was not in the area originally, but got there pretty quickly, and we've never really resolved how that's possible. So he has information, or he at least has the ability to be somewhere when a big event is happening, and he's done
In a
it
summoning
multiple
circle?
times.
Like a mark might be on his
I
missing
was
arm. No.
well, I mean, I was gonna say there's no way he got his entire crew there. That would be the only
Yeah.
like trick to that. But
He
otherwise,
fast traveled. We'll just stick with that.
He fast traveled, yeah. So he's able to understand and be aware of multiple things around here, around the Grand Line, around the greater part of the world. He's not, oblivious to it all, like Luffy kind of is, which does help because then Luffy can go basically cause chaos all over the world, and there's somebody who's kind of keeping an eye on those things. It's interesting in that conversation, like, well, why didn't Shanks do this? Why didn't Scopper Gabon go take down, Kaido? They have these positions that they're supposed to hold, right? They're either aware of things that nobody else is aware of, or, to Shanks's point, trying to maintain a certain level of balance. Throwing the world into too much disarray at any given point is one, fruitless in a lot of cases, like Marineford, but also could just have ripple effects for, not only his agenda, but just even this generation that he's bet on, right? Even if he doesn't have a bigger, idea about Nika or anything like that, right? A safer world for this new generation is just a better thing, right? He's the mentor type.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to belabor it too much, but we have never talked about the stuff of like Shanks getting to Marineford super quickly. I just remember assuming that he intercepted Kaido like not like probably close to the entrance to the New World. It might have been a lot closer than we think. And I would buy that the Red Force is a super fast ship that Shanks, with his future sight, has the ability to move quickly in the world, logistically. And I would buy too that he probably has a heck of a navigator. Know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's never bothered me very much.
Oh yeah,
It would bother me
it's
if
just we've never.
Yeah, like if it was established that he had been like near Wano or something, and then it just like teleported, like that probably would be, but it's clear to me that Kaido was already kind of making his way to Marineford. And I also think that like, I don't think it took much to convince Kaido to turn away. I think he just kind of wanted to go there because of the chaos, not because there was like a personal vendetta. So like, because he's not as committed,
right.
I think Shanks confronting him is like enough of a deterrent.
Yeah, Kaido and Big Mom, right? They aren't necessarily ambitious, but they're not exactly foolish either, right? They've built up these states, for lack of a better term, these collected powers, and it's in their best interest to try to secure them. 3, emperors at Marineford, plus the entirety of the Marine forces. That's going to put a chip in your. It's going to put a chip in your forces. And you can't just rebuild from that. Like Kaido has this very meticulous network that he had built all across the back half of the Grand Line. And all of that gets put at risk if he commits too many resources to adding to this disaster. Taking advantage of this opening seemed like a good idea until another person showed up and he's like, okay, I'm out. Call me when you have you want to actually kill me or something. I'm out. Peace. Like, that's completely reasonable.
Hmm. What do you make of the name of the chapter? An older woman. Like, it's a joke, obviously, of like,
Yeah.
Chief Jaw Rule. He's only into older women, but he's the oldest person in the world or something. The oldest giant in the world. They say person, but do we know better? Do you make anything of that besides the joke? Because I mean, it's a quick thing, a throwaway thing that happens in the chapter.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time. I know a lot of people have been like, oh, well, the Ace Death chapter was just literally called, the death of Portugal's the Ace. And like, yes, but there's also been plenty of chapters that are just like small, narrow references to a thing in the chapter. You can't call it Loki Unchained, for example, because he's still partially chained. I think this is just, I think Oda thinks the joke is funny enough to be the chapter title. I think that's genuinely where we're going. And the
He couldn't think of
reason,
anything else.
no, it's just, I think he likes that joke. I think he doesn't, like, he wouldn't have included this whole like segment of Usopp like slapping the sword. If there's any hint whatsoever to tell us to pay more attention to that segment, it's the line about taking the sword out of his head. To me, that's what we're supposed to be paying attention to. And the joke just kind of brings us to it, because I've seen the theory that like that sword is like ripping through his memory, and removing it would, kind of kickstart his brain, so to speak. One Piece science, it doesn't make any sense.
Like a lawnmower.
But yeah, like literally, yeah, vroom, and then that's when we find out whatever the actual truth of Loki is.
Yeah.
Like that, I've seen that floated, and I don't hate that idea because that's just dumb enough. Because he keeps bringing this up. He keeps bringing up the sword. He keeps, kind of making it clear that this is an old man who's not necessarily 100% here. Like, that I think is more worth paying attention to than the title means we're going to find like an even older giant. Why? What does that do for us? What does that do for the story? Nothing. I think it's a funny joke, and Oda really likes the joke. He wouldn't have put the joke in. But pay attention to that sword. That sword also had a name. I don't know if that's its real name,
Yeah.
but Usopp named it.
I would say too that I think one of the reasons maybe he likes the joke so much is it does also play into some of the core themes of this arc, which is the idea of like generational power. This is the giants exist in this ancient civilization, and so much of the tension we've seen so far between the various giant factions has been disagreement over the future. You have the kind of
Yeah.
stodgy, like, I only like the older, it's not that subtle, but it's kind of playing into, like this kind of stodgy thing, like we were just saying, like with Shanks being about the future, the youth, what's going to come next. And this kind of stubbornness of trying to just keep things as they've always been. What would be interesting about that is then you can kind of have the perverse look of that theme when you with the character of what's his name, the king Harold. If it turns out that he really was like this evil guy who to them, like, the change, the future and all of that was to kind of bring about a new era that's bad, that's going to, essentially give the world government too much power. So, there's some stuff to chew on there, I guess.
Yeah, it's not necessarily, I made the joke about like Elbaf going woke before, but like it's this idea that there's value in both looking forward and also being aware of your past, right? Which has
Yeah.
always been a big theme of One Piece. There's a whole piece of history just missing, and that's a huge plot point, right? Like, it's important to be able to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's we have some comments here. This one's from Lionblade. Lionblade, who says, Luffy may have put everyone in a predicament once again. But if Loki is truly not purely evil, and that's a big possibility, then this could be the initial setup that will lead to making Loki one of the Straw Hat allies. This may also be a chance to get the Loki issue resolved right now in order for everyone, the Straw Hats and their allies, to shift their focus on the Holy Knights, who are the actual main villains of the Elbaf arc. Look, yeah, if that's the case, I mean, it's going to take a fight. It's going to take some wild stuff. And I think Loki is going to be this really bad dude. I don't think it came out of nowhere that the Giants were like, we need to lock this guy up. It could have just been some misunderstanding. No, I think that that's part of the character is that he's bad, but bad for reasons that are going to make more sense. I think that's the thing. And I will say the idea of like this being resolved right now, say what you want, about the post time skip era. But one thing that I think that Oda has been getting better at, especially recently, is the pacing. We've mentioned it many times, but I'm feeling like Elbaf is moving at a great clip, just like Egghead was. I feel like ever since we got out of Wano, dude's been on overdrive. He's been like, Final Saga, here I am. Let's get this thing wrapped up. And I am so happy about that. Can't say it enough.
Yeah, something I want to note really quickly when we talk about like, is Loki evil? Is he a bad guy? We were talking about themes of One Piece a minute ago. One of those is perception. Are we good? Are we bad? Are we heroes or villains? You decide that. I'm gonna do what I want to do. So there is this idea that Loki is an exploration of that. That like he is following his nature, and it's not necessarily he's not being morally evil or morally good. He's just being instinctive, and maybe that's what Luffy is drawn to with him.
Right. Homerman76 says, methinks Loki is going to be after a spot of revenge against the Knights more than anything. Yeah, I think that he'll want to, fight the Knights and all, but I do also think that he's going to. I think this guy's just chaos, quite honestly. I think that he is just going to, like, once he's actually free, like, his next step is to get the shackle off, right? So he can truly go all out. And I don't think anyone's going to be safe from him. I think he's just going to go all out. So I'm scared of Loki. I'm not going to lie to you, Travis.
That last panel is really imposing. It's a really good panel.
Summer JW writes, if there's one thing the Straw Hats are great at, even if they themselves don't realize it yet, it's navigating chaos. Somehow they, aka Luffy, 99% of the time, create the worst odds possible for themselves and the people around them, and they somehow come out unscathed, or at least not dead, except Brook. Loki being free is no different, and it'll most likely come in handy with the Knights in town, especially with his freshly birthed grudge against Shamrock. I just wonder what his overall intentions are, since it seems he may not be as evil as we think given some story clues. Yeah, I mean, we didn't see the Holy Knights again. They're going to kidnap these children. We're not sure yet how they're going to kidnap these kids and how that's going to go down and who's going to get in their way and all of that. I'd say that Shamrock's probably gone or going to be gone pretty soon. It sounded like he was in a hurry. So we have these other Holy Knights kind of entering the fray, and so we're going to see what they're up to and all that. But yeah, I mean, we got a bit of like a God Valley Part 2 situation in the making here. Total
Yeah,
chaos,
I
especially if
mean,
more people show up.
yeah, there is. I hadn't even considered. Like, there's still like the possibility that there's a Eustace kid running around here somewhere, right?
Hmm. It's just amazing. Like,
Not
how long has
would
it
matter,
been
but
in World Out? Like, what? It's been like a few hours since the Straw Hats arrived, and already all of this
basically,
is happening. They show up, and it's just like one thing after another. Like, they don't have,
I
there's no time to go to bed. Nobody's just like,
I
can we call it?
cannot.
It's late.
Yeah, I literally cannot perceive time when it comes to One Piece. It does not function. I swear to you, before we are done, we started this talking about like, oh, it's called the Blue Planet, and I swear we are going to eventually need like a cosmic explanation for why time works the way that it does in One Piece, because their days have to be like 72 hours long. That's the only thing that makes sense here.
Jaded Reader writes, Loki is the same size as Oars. He is suffering from both Shamrock and Gunko's attacks. His HP stamina is so low that Luffy thought he was either dead or unconscious. Oda is blocking Loki from using his Devil Fruit. We know that Sea Stone weakens a Devil Fruit user's physical strength too. And now we learn about this weapon called Ragnir. The mere act of Loki brandishing Ragnir has Hajruden stressed out, and the whole monster trio is here. Oda has nerfed Loki so much, lol, but he's definitely going to pop off anyway. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just great storytelling. It's like you don't start off with everything right off the bat. You leave it to the imagination of like, how powerful is he really if he's this powerful already? That's great.
Do you think he's gonna kick Zoro? Like there's this part of me that just like wants to see him just like pick up his foot and just give him a kick back, and it just sends Zoro to the other side of the forest just to split him up.
Then he gets lost the entire rest of the art.
Yes,
That'd be funny.
exactly. That would be a way to complicate things without like power scaling it. Is just, hey, you kicked me, now it's my turn.
My gosh. Yeah, lots of people praising the panel. Swiper67, one of the coldest panels I've ever seen. Straw Hat Luffy 7 writes, it's great seeing Usopp getting hammered and having a good time with the Giants. Now, what is Loki going to do next? Blue Curb, I was like, Loki's going golfing and Zoro can be the ball. Well said.
Yep.
There you
Yep.
go.
I mean, if he's got a bone to pick with Shamrock, he's got a bone to pick with old Mosshead here.
Snicker Snack wrote, guessing Ulti and Page 1 will be future allies. They could have, wait, they're already, allies of like Yamato and all that. I thought they were talking like of each other. I was like, what are you? They could have taken Ragnar away before locking him up. Makes sense that the Devil Fruit power passed down in Elbaf royalty is weapon infused with a Devil Fruit instead of passing down the Devil Fruit itself, since it appears randomly when the fruit reincarnates. Interesting detail about Fire and Lightning. Maybe that's the power of Ragnar. Post Wano really puts emphasis on OP Zoan fruits, LOL. If Loki with Ragnar ends up being an ally, then we have someone who can go face to face with San Juan Wolf of the Blackbeard crew. I feel like we have a lot of people who can, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
For
interesting. Sure. That's why I just really like the idea of like the weapon Ragnar being something that he summoned to himself. Yeah. From anywhere.
If it does have a devil fruit, like if it's absorbed to devil fruit, because I do like the idea of that's how it's being passed down. I hadn't considered it in that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
That'd be
when
cool.
did that happen?
Just the other
this
day.
Is like yeah, right. Because like
14 years ago.
I mean,
who
14
knows?
years ago, right? Like, because Vegapunk pioneered that tech, and we saw it way back in Alabasta, right? With the dog gun. I forget his name. So it's not like it's brand new, but if this is something that's been passed down for years and years and years, like Giants have to live long enough to pass something down in the first place, right? So like we're talking a lot of time.
They could just, I mean, it's also possible that they had their own method for it that's different from what we've seen before. Like it's something that could have existed and other people think is a discovery, So there's that possibility. Plus, I think there's the idea too that like, yeah, I mean, and there's also the idea, that it's passed down, but people do different things with it, and maybe Loki was the weirdo who decided to pass it down instead of eating it, putting it in a hammer so we could eat another devil fruit. Who knows? I was just thinking on his feet.
He is a thinker.
Xavier Price writes, now I know all of this seems bad, but don't forget, there are now 4 God Knights on the island, or well, 3. I guess Shamrock is leaving, but that's still 3 top-tier dangers lurking. Yeah, I think it's going to be 3. This could get so much worse. I still don't believe Loki is evil. Violent and dangerous, oh, you bet your bottom berry he is. But evil? Nah. I mean, evil, violent, dangerous, they're synonyms. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what you determine as evil,
Yeah.
What would make Loki evil to you? Is it that he's despicable? Is it that his interests conflict with the Straw Hats?
Is he a liar? Does that make him evil? Is that he's caused the Giants a lot of consternation? We've spent weeks debating whether or not he, not that he killed his father. We've all accepted that at face value, but that he did it for good reasons. Like half the community's been like, yeah, that guy probably had it coming. So, like I was saying before, it's going to be perspective that we're going to have to be given. It wouldn't be the first time that somebody has gotten really, really hyped up for being a genuine monster, only to turn out that that's not even remotely true. I mean, we just had that with Kuma. So we kind of had that with Zoro way back. So
it's interesting because, like, I mean, we've sort of seen this Loki kind of be similar to the God of Mischief version of Loki, but he's also kind of been this powerhouse. He's been, like Thor more so in terms of like he's just super powerful, but also he seems like the thing that would make him evil would be like, is he a person who exploits sympathy in other people, makes people think that he's a victim, that he's weak or wrong, but then he turns around and uses that against other people? I would say, yeah, that would make him evil. Another thing that would make him evil is this idea that if he wants to seize power at any cost, the stuff like being a prince of Elbaf, and if King Harold was like, no, Hadrudin is going to take over, and Loki, kills his father out of anger and jealousy, like that would make him pretty evil. So again, there's just all kinds of things, the fact that he hates Shanks, there are all kinds of clues. Like, I think we want him to not be the big evil villain, that we want him to be misunderstood. I think for the same reason the Marvel version of Loki ended up becoming like an anti-hero, it's because first of all, we want somebody like him who's super powerful to be on our side in terms of like the Straw Hats and their motives. And then also just the fact that, I mean, what is the future of Elbaf here? What's the conflict here? It would be more interesting in terms of the story if there was like a twist like that. Although at this point, is it a twist? Because everybody seems to be expecting it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's still very up in the air. We think we've got this figured out because we've seen it so many times in various forms in One Piece, but this would be the moment to subvert that. The idea that you don't know what Loki's going to do next is very Loki like, right? That's the most Loki thing that he's done yet is not to communicate what he's going to do.
I agree. I agree. All right, well, Travis, that does it for the comments here. Anything else before we say goodnight and goodbye?
I don't think I have too much, though. I do want to touch really briefly. There was a comment about drunk Usopp and everything. This arc has not spent so, like, we've checked in with Usopp and he's having a good time and he's very happy he's achieved his dream, but we haven't really seen him, encountering anything really yet. He didn't really go to he hung out at the school and then he left. So he didn't go to the library. He didn't go to look at the tree. He hasn't really explored Elbaf proper yet, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah. You could argue that, this is something that Oda's done before where he's built up characters by keeping them in the background right before kind of giving them a major turning point. So like right now, Usopp is celebrating. Like he's in that kind of victory lap. Like he reached Elbaf. That's one of his dreams. That could still be setting the stage for like a bigger challenge that's about to come. So we don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think like seeing him at his happiest, partying and everything could be like a deliberate, like, let's contrast this with a huge crisis where his courage, his abilities, all that stuff is going to really be put to the test. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he hasn't had his defining moment yet, but I can imagine that Oda is saving it for a good reason, and there could be setup that we just don't know is set up yet. That's going to be like, this is about Usopp's worthiness. And, I like the idea of like Usopp, for example, kind of like being in this moment where he sees the giants and he's like, wow, they're so great. But then like slowly starts to see like, you know what? They get scared just like me, But what does it mean to be brave if he gets to see the giants in a crisis also be more similar to him than he thought? That could be the trigger point. It's like, it's not about him, being tough and strong and beating everybody. It's him realizing that like, yeah, you know what? Like I get afraid, I fear things, but that doesn't mean I can't be brave. It's a simple lesson, but it's something that would be huge for him if he saw that in the giants. And
in the case of Loki being free, that's pretty much their worst fear coming to fruition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
That's definitely setting the stage for Usopp to be like, oh no, and then thinking, because again, he idolizes these giants. What's bigger than them? Like that's the obvious symbolic thing. They're giants. They're the biggest around, but they get afraid too. Like that's the thing that I think Oda has been wanting to set Usopp up for so long. Probably, I mean, Aesop's Fables. I mean, it's been in the works, since his introduction as a character 25 odd years ago. So yeah, I'm sticking by it.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good read. I think you got it. Just have to bring up the Usopp agenda,
Every we have to every time. I mean,
every time
we all have our agendas for Usopp. I have 7. All right, well, I guess that'll do it then for Ricky Pirate Radio. I'm excited for the next chapter. I haven't gotten the Raws yet. They've been coming later than usual. But as soon as I get them, Travis, you better believe I'm going to be in that Discord putting down spoilers with spoiler tags so I don't ruin anybody's One Piece experience. You know how it is. But we'll be talking about.
See them, click that link.
There you go. That's the plug. If you want to, I was going to say, no, 1142 is the next chapter. And yeah, we're going to be talking about that one next week, of course. Coming to you soon. And then I don't know if we have any other filler content for whenever the next break week is, but we'll let you know when we know. But with that, we'll see you all, sail with you all again another time.